Masechet Ketubot Daf Ayin Chet. We begin the 8th perek, which is about financial matters between the husband and wife. We're talking about nichse melog. That is property that the wife brings into the marriage. She either owned it before or acquires ownership of this property during the marriage. And the law of this property is that she retains the title to the land, but the husband can enjoy the income that the land produces, which makes sense. He's in charge of all the household finances and providing for her and all that. And so he gets to do that, but she owns the land. So it's a kind of partnership in the land. And as with any partnership, is always a question of who can control. What if she wants to sell the land while they're married or before they're married? I was once a tenant, and I was my landlord was one person. My landlord sold the house that I was renting to someone else, so then I had a new landlord, which is perfectly legal and worked out just fine. But you can see that this can get tricky in various cases. So that's what we're talking about. We begin. Ha'isha shenaflu la nechasim ad shelo titares. If a wife had some property that fell to her, meaning like she inherited it. Doesn't have to mean she inherited it. She could have, however she acquired it, but this is hers, and she received it before the kiddushin, meaning while she was single. Well, in that case, modim bet Shammai or bet Hillel shemochedet venotenet vekayam. In that case, everybody would agree. We're going to see there's a machloket bet Hillel bet Shammai in a second, but in this case, everyone would agree that she can buy it, sell it, sell it or give it away as a gift, and that transaction is perfectly valid. She's a single woman. She can own property. She can sell property. She can do whatever she wants with it. So that's clear. There's not going to be any discussion about that. Second case, naflu la mishenit arsa, if she acquired the land after kiddushin. Now already, because there was kiddushin, so the husband-to-be, has some rights over her and over her property. It's not full rights, but it's something in between. Because it's something in between, potential rights. Therefore, this is subject to a machloket. Bet Shammai omerim timkor, or Bet Hillel omerim lo timkor. Bet Shammai is on her side and says she can still sell it. They're not married yet. It's her property. She can sell. She can do what she wants with it. Bet Hillel says no, he can't. She can't. Because maybe he came and one of the reasons he married her is because she has this land. He's looking forward to farming the land and gaining income from the land. And now she's going to go sell it? Sorry, it's not her right anymore. Elu ve'elu modim she machra v'natna kayam. But both agree, meaning even Bet Hillel agrees that b'di avad, if she did sell it or give it away, the transaction is valid. Because after all, they're not married yet. It's her land. And so if she does sell it, it's valid. Okay, now that's case number 2. We're going to see a third case, but before that, we're going to have a conversation about this machloket Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, and this version of this machloket is according to Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to see a second version of this conversation coming up soon. Okay, Amiru Chachamim lifnei Rabban Gamliel. The sages told Rabban Gamliel, Ho'il v'zacha bi'isha lo yizkeh b'nechasim. The question is for sure on Bet Shammai. It might even be on Bet Hillel. But according to Bet Shammai, right, they're challenging Rabban Gamliel to defend Bet Shammai here. According to Bet Shammai, that if she receives this land after Kiddushin, then she can sell it. The Chachamim ask, since the man acquired the woman by doing Kiddushin, he has authority over her, so he should also have authority over her property. So the Kiddushin, it's basically like a full marriage, except that they didn't consummate the marriage, they're not living together, but he already should have his rights to her. No one else can come and marry her. He should have rights to her land, and no one else should be able to come and buy the land. That's a good question. Amar lehen, Rabban Gamliel is now going to defend her rights and therefore support Bet Shammai. על החדשים אנו בושים, אלא שאתם מגלגלים עלינו את הישנים. So Rabban Gamliel answers, even on the new property that she inherits after her marriage. This is anticipating the third case. This Mishnah is a little hard because you have to know the whole Mishnah in order to understand these interjections within the Mishnah. But we'll review it in a second. So he says, in a case where she acquires the land after she's already married, and in that case, she has the least rights over it because she acquires it after marriage. He says, even in that case, we are ashamed that the husband should have rights to it, because if she acquires the land, it's hers. She should be able to do what she wants with it. So Rabban Gamliel is saying, really, I think that she should always have rights, even if she acquires it later. That means the new. So, and now you're coming and adding on and complaining about the old lands, meaning the lands that she already owned from before the marriage, that she acquired now since the Kiddushin, and you're coming to say he should have rights to it. I think she should have rights to all her land, even the ones that she gets after Nisu'in. All the more so the ones after the Kiddushin. So it's a fundamental machloket here of what do you do with this land? It's a kind of partnership. Rabban Gamliel would say she owns the title and therefore she can sell it anytime she wants. Whereas Chachamim here are saying, no, he is the one that while they're married, as long as they're married, he controls, he has authority over her and therefore her property, so he should do whatever be able to do what he wants with it. So that's the two sides of the machloket. Okay, the Gemara is going to ask whether this discussion here is only for Bet Shammai, or it might even be regarding Bet Hillel, because even Bet Hillel says B'di Avad, if she sells it, it's valid, and so Chachamim might be asking Rabban Gamliel even about Bet Hillel. Hey, since the man acquires her, he also acquires the land, and therefore even b'diavad, he should be able to take back the sale. Okay, the Gemara will discuss that, but that's important because Rabban Gamliel is not necessarily defending only Bet Shammai. He may be defending Bet Hillel, which is what the Gemara is going to conclude. Okay, now we have a third case. Naflu la misheniset. This is where she acquires the land after the nisuin. Elu ve'elu modim she machra v'natna shabal mosi miyad halakochot. In this case, Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai would agree that she cannot sell it. She doesn't have a right to it. And b'diavad, if she does sell it, the husband can go after the buyers and say, sorry, my wife sold it to you. She didn't have a right to do it. I'm in charge here, and he can take them back. Okay, now we have one more opinion, which is Rabban Gamliel himself. He was involved in the conversation, but now we're going to see another version of the conversation that's about Rabban Gamliel's own position. So he says, Ad shelo niset v'niset, Rabban Gamliel omer imachra v'natna kayam. If she acquired the land before Nisu'in, but then sold it after Nisu'in, in that case, Rabban Gamliel says, b'diavad, if she sold it or gave it away, it's valid. He would agree that if she acquired it after Nisu'in and sold it after Nisu'in, then it's an invalid sale. But if she acquired it beforehand and sold it afterwards, then b'diavad is okay. If she acquired it before Nisu'in and sold it before Nisu'in, presumably he would say it's a fine sale. Like Bet Shammai, although he could agree with Bet Hillel in that case as well. Okay, it's regarding this that Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya, Amar Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya, he has the same conversation as above Rabbi Yehuda had, but he applies it to this case here, the third, this statement of Rabban Gamliel, and not the case of after Kiddushin, before Nisu'in, which is what Rabbi Yehuda's version was. So Rabbi Yehuda had one version of this conversation, and this is the second. Amar Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya. Amru lifnei Rabban Gamliel. Ho'il v'zacha b'isha lo yizkeh b'nechasim. So it's about this, Rabban Gamliel's own position. The Chachamim challenged him and said, since the man acquired her after Kiddushin, so all the more so he will acquire her property. And you're talking about property that she had gotten before Nisu'in, and she sold it after Nisu'in, and you said b'di'avad, the sale is okay. Why? He owns her. he has authority over her. Okay, Amar lahem ala chadashim anaboshim ela shetem megalgelin alenu haishanim. And Rabban Gamliel answers, really, I think that the wife should always have the rights over her own property, right? The husband doesn't own her, and therefore does not own her property. He has certain authorities and certain, rights and responsibilities, but this is her land, and so really, I think that she should be able to sell the land that she got and sold after Nisu'in. But what can I do? I'm embarrassed that the law has not come down in that way, but at least I'm going to defend her right. If she acquired the land before Nisu'in, then if she had sold it after Nisu'in, the sale should be valid. Okay, there is one more section of the Mishnah, but let's get a quick summary of the Mishnah so far, because it is a complex structure. So to simplify, we have three cases here. Whether number one, she inherited the land or received the land, doesn't matter how she received it, before Kiddushin. The second one is when she inherited the land between Kiddushin and Nisu'in, and the third one is when she inherited the land after Nisu'in. This is the basic breakdown, that it matters more when she acquired the land. It matters less when she actually made the sale, according to this structure. So if she inherited before Kiddushin, she inherited at a time when she was single, she can do anything she wants, and so all agree, and this would apply even if she sells it after the Kiddushin. If she acquired it before Kiddushin and she sells it after Kiddushin, still everyone would agree that sale is valid. That was hers from before. No problem. Okay, we will see in the Talmud that Rav and Shemuel will disagree with that point. Okay, but in the Mishnah, everyone agrees with that. The most complicated case is when she inherited it in that between status. Well, then what do? So here, Bet Shammai is more on her side. She can sell it lechatechila. Bet Hillel says she can only sell it bedi'avad. Okay. Now, Rabban Gamliel, even though Rabban Gamliel is quoted in the Mishnah after number 3, really he is in fact talking about a case where she inherited it in between, right, before the Nisu'in. But Rabban Gamliel would say, it sounds like he would agree with Bet Hillel that if she sells it in between, then it's totally fine. Sorry, that means he agrees with Bet Shammai. But here's his chidush: if he acquired it before Nisu'in and sold it after Nisu'in, then b'diavad it's okay. So that's his chidush. That goes against all the other opinions, because all the other opinions says if she inherits the land after Nisu'in, at that point she is fully under the authority of her husband, and therefore everyone would agree, Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai, that she cannot sell the land. If she sells it, the husband can go after it. So if we take out Rabban Gamliel, right, so it's very nice structure, right? Everyone agrees here. Everyone agrees in the other case. Bet Shammai, Bet Hillel only disagree in the middle case. And the only thing that's important is when it's inherited. But we're going to see that there are the criteria. The other criteria is when is it sold? And Rabban Gamliel already here is questioning that. Okay, now besides these steps, we also have a conversation between Chachamim, who prefers his side of the story, and Rabban Gamliel, who prefers her side. And this conversation itself had two versions. Rabbi Yehuda applied it in case number 2 regarding Bet Shammai Bet Hillel when she acquires and sells it during the in-between period. Rabbi Chanina, however, applied it to the Rabban Gamliel case when she acquired it before but sells it after the Nisu'in. All right, that is the structure so far. Now, one last opinion that has nothing to do with the ones before. Rabban Shimon go cholek ben nechasim lenechasim. Rabban Shimon gives yet another distinction, not when she acquired it, but a different criteria. What kind of property is it? Nechasim hayedoin labaal lo timkod. If the husband knew about this property that she owns, she can't sell it because he's going to come and say, hey, I married you because I knew you had this property. I'm relying on it. So it's not your right to go and sell it. So he has authority over it. And if she does sell it or give it away, the sale is invalid. However, she'enan yedu'in laba'al lo timkod, if she has some offshore accounts hidden away, other land that he doesn't know about, so he's not relying on it, he doesn't even know about it. Kayam. And so therefore, those things that are unknown to him, if she goes ahead and sells it or gives it away, those transactions are valid. They belong to her. That's the Mishnah. Okay, now the Gemara will ask, we're talking about the first clause of the Mishnah, where she inherited the property before the Kiddushin, and there everyone said she can sell it, the Chatechila, it's totally fine. Whereas in the second one, where she inherited it after Kiddushin but before Nisuin, and there it's a machloket. But what difference does it make when she acquired the land? Either way, she's selling it during the Kiddushin, after the Kiddushin, before Nisuin. If she's selling it at that time, so she is equally under the authority of her husband, whether she received the land before Kiddushin or after Kiddushin. What is the difference when she receives the property? More important is what is her status when she sells it? The answer to that is Amri debe Rabbi Yanai, Resha bizchutah nafelu, Sefa bizchuto nafelu. In the first case, she inherits the property before Kiddushin. It's in her right. She acquired it when she's single, and therefore, when it's totally her right to do whatever she wants with it, so she continues that right even after Kiddushin. Whereas the second case, where she inherited the land after the Kiddushin, so when she inherits it, she's already under the authority of her husband, and therefore the right to sell it then belongs to the husband. She can't say, I already had it when I was coming into the marriage. So that explains why it does make a difference when she acquires it. We ask further on this. Im bizchuto nafelu ki machera v'natna amai kayam. A question to Bet Hillel. If in fact it's his property, and when she acquires it after Kiddushin, then it belongs to him. So then, why, if b'diavad she gave it away or sold it, then what would be, why is the sale valid? Right? This whole line of questioning is only for Bet Hillel, because according to Bet Shammai, she can sell it no matter what, whether she inherited it before Kiddushin or after Kiddushin is the same. So Bet Shammai doesn't have to give this answer. So according to Bet Hillel, however, I understand your answer that when after Kiddushin she acquires it under his authority, but then how come b'diavad it's okay? So rather we're going to refine our answer and say, in the first case where she's single, then she is for sure her merit, her right to do what she wants with it. That's when she inherited it. But in the second case, we say maybe it's her right, maybe it's his right. Since it's a Kiddushin, and we're never sure at the stage of Kiddushin whether they're going to have the Nisuin. They might break off the marriage, and they might get divorced before the Nisuin. This is still a touch and go period, right? I mean, sometimes that things happen and the wedding doesn't work out. They fight about the flowers, they break it off. And so, therefore, we are not sure whether when she inherits it after the Kiddushin, before the Nisuin, is it her right or his right? And therefore, since it's a safek, we say, lechetechila, don't sell it. But if you sold it, then it's fine. So we'll leave it as is. Okay, so that is the answer. That explains why Bet Hillel makes a difference between case 1 and case 2. All right, now regarding case 2, we have Rabbi Yehuda's version of the conversation. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amru lifnei Rabban Gamliel, Chachamim challenge Rabban Gamliel regarding this law. Rabbi Yehuda alechetechila or adi avad. When the sages were questioning him, you could look here. They were questioning him here about this machloket, and the sages said, he acquires her after Kiddushin. Why doesn't he acquire her land also? So that's certainly a challenge to Bet Shammai that says she can sell it. Why can she sell it? It's under his authority. And the question is are Chachamim also challenging Rabban Gamliel regarding Bet Hillel? Hey, according to Bet Hillel, how come B'di Avad it's okay? Since he acquired her land fully, and therefore even B'di Avad it should not be a valid sale. So are they challenging Bet Hillel, or are Chachamim okay with Bet Hillel and they're only challenging Bet Shammai regarding that lechatechila? That's our question. We have an answer from a baraita, Tashema. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. So this is a baraita expanded version of the conversation. Amru lifnei Rabban Gamliel, ho'il vezo ishto, zo michra batel, av zo michra batel. And so this version of the question, they explain, the Chachamim challenged Rabban Gamliel, since this is his wife and that is his wife, meaning after Kiddushin, that's his wife. After Nisuin, that's his wife. Legally, halachically, after Kiddushin, they're pretty much married. It's not like modern day engagement that has no legal significance. So it is they are married for most purposes, and therefore, just like after the Nisuin, you said everyone agrees that if she sells it, it's invalid. So too, before the Nisuin, it should be invalid. So you see here, their challenge is even against Bet Hillel, because Bet Hillel says B'di Avad it's valid. But in this Baraita version of the conversation, the Chachamim, are unhappy with any validity of the sale after the Kiddushin. And so here's the answer. Amar lehem ala chadeshim anu boshim, ela she'atem megalgelin alenu et hayeshanim. So that's the same as the answer in the Mishnah, that truth is, Rabban Gamliel, I'm really upset about the law after Nisuin. I think she should have the right always. And now you're coming and adding and complaining and adding more that he should have even rights before the Kiddushin, when she already had it earlier. So that's his defense. She owns it. She should be able to do it. Okay, that's the end of the Braita, and that's the answer. Shema Amina, Diabad Kamar, Shema Amina. We can conclude that the Chachamim were asking even about Bet Hillel, who says B'diavad the sale is valid. Okay, we're going to continue this Baraita, which also gives an expanded version of Rabbi Chanina's version of the conversation. And this version of the conversation is going to be a little different from the Mishnah's version that we're going to ask about that. Tanya. Amar Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya, lo kacha shivan Rabban Gamliel chachamim, ela kacha shivan. Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya says, that's not what Rabban Gamliel told chachamim. You have a different version. This is actually the answer that he said. Remember, the challenge of the Chachamim against Rabban Gamliel in this version is about what he says, that if she acquires the land before Nisuin and sold it even after Nisuin, then b'diavad it's a valid sale. And so they ask about that. Why is it a valid sale? He acquired her. He acquires her land also. And so this is the answer that he said. Lo im amartem b'nisua sheken ba'ala zakai b'mesiata u b'maseyadeha u b'hafarat nedareha. No, after the Nisuin, that's when it makes sense that if she acquired it after Nisuin and she sold it after Nisuin, for sure, he has rights over it, because at that point he is entitled to anything she finds, to her earnings, and he can undo her vows. And that's all after Nisuin. So you see, after Nisuin, it really steps up his authority and rights over her. But you can't compare that to Tomeru be'arusa she'en ba'ala zakai lo b'mesiata ve'lo b'maseyadeha ve'lo hapavat nedareha. After Kiddushin, before Nisuin, the husband does not have a right over things she finds or her earnings, and he cannot nullify her vows. So there's a big difference between before Nisuin and after Nisuin. That's why, as long as she acquired the land before the nisuin, then she has rights to it. It doesn't go to him. Amru la. The sages say back to him. Now we have an extended version of this conversation. Rabbi, machra la al shelo niset. Niset ve'achar kach machra. Mahu. The Chachamim now further challenged Rabban Gamliel. According to your logic, that there is a difference between before Nisuin and after Nisuin. So according to you, Rabban Gamliel, what's your opinion? If she sold this land that she acquired before Nisuin, if she sold it before Nisuin, would it make a difference in that law versus if she first did Nisuin and only then sold it? Well, what do you say, right? Well, shouldn't there be a difference? Amar lehu af zo mochedet v'notenet v'kayam. He said, no, I don't think there's a difference. In fact, even as long as she owned it before the Nisuin, she can sell it even after Nisuin. Lechatechila. This is the line that we're going to ask about. Because according to our Mishnah, he only said that in that case, when she owns it before Nisuin and sells it after Nisuin, only b'diavad she can sell it. But in this conversation, he's saying, yes, she can even sell it lechatechila. In other words, there is no difference between her selling it before Nisuin and after Nisuin. Regarding that, now the Chachamim give a serious challenge. You just said that there is a difference between before and after, but now you're saying there's no difference. Amru lo, ho'il v'zacha be'isha, lo yizke b'nechasim. So the Chachamim say, since he now acquires her, doesn't he also acquire the rights over her land? In other words, you just agreed that, and now once they have Nisuin, he owns her things she finds, her earnings. So certainly after the time of Nisuin, he should be able to stop the sale and get it back. So, how come you don't make a distinction? Amar lehem ala chadashim anu boshim ela shetem megalgilin alenu et hayeshanim. So Rabban Gamliel answers, in fact, over the new property, even the ones that she inherited after the Nisuin, we are ashamed of your opinion. But we have to agree. We can't find anyone that says otherwise. So Rabban Gamliel says, even with the land that she acquires after Nisuin, that's the Chadashim, I think Rabban Gamliel says really she should have a right to it. But what can I do? I have nobody's going to support me on that, so I don't say that. But at least a land that she had acquired before the Nisuin, that she has rights over even after, to sell even after the Nisuin. That's the end of the Braita. Okay, so now we ask about this contradiction. V'anantenan, in our Mishnah, Rabban Gamliel only says, Ad shelo niset v'niset, Rabban Gamliel omer, imachra v'natna kayam. Our Mishnah says, if she acquired it before marriage, but then sells it after marriage, Rabban Gamliel says, only b'di'avad, it's okay. But here in the Braita said, lechatechila. So which one is it? Amar Rav Zevid, Taneh mochedet v'notenet v'kayam. Says, you're right, this contradiction is there. So you know what we have to do? We have to change the text of the Mishnah to fit the Braita. We got it wrong. And the Mishnah, in fact, says, mochedet v'notenet lechatechila, not imachra v'natna. That's one answer. Rav Papa amar lakashya, ha Rabbi Yehuda alibad Rabban Gamliel, ha Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya alibad Rabban Gamliel. Rav Papa says there's actually two different versions of Rabban Gamliel's opinion, and so the Mishnah is the version of Rabbi Yehuda. He is the one that we also already quoted both in this Baraita and the Mishnah above. And so, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rabban Gamliel will only agree to it b'di'avad. However, according to Rabbi Chanina's ben Akavya's version of the conversation, he understands that Rabban Gamliel would permit it even lechatechila. So it's a machloket between these two later students about what Rabban Gamliel said. Okay, Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya kebet Shammai. According to that, we would actually end up being the same as Bet Shammai, because Bet Shammai says when she acquired it before, she can sell it, no problem. Lechatechila. Not only at this point, but even after Nisuin, Rabban Gamliel would say it's okay. But certainly, if she acquires it but in the in-between period and sells it in the in-between period, certainly Rabban Gamliel would say that's fine, and that would be the opinion of Bet Shammai. That's unusual that a later student would follow Bet Shammai and against the Bet Hillel. So how could that be? We answer Hachi Kamar Lo Nechleku Bet Shammai Bet Hillel al davar zeh. Or rather, according to this version of Rabban Gamliel, they will Bri Chanina's version will deny that there's even a machloket. Even Bet Hillel, he thinks, would agree that she can sell it lechatechila, and so even this version that there is a machloket is only according to Rabbi Yehuda. All right, now another opinion altogether that we didn't see yet. Rav Ushmoel damre tarvaihu ben shenaflu lanechasim ad shelo nit'aresa ben shenaflu lanechasim mishe nit'aresa v'niset habal mosi miyad halakochot. Rav and Shmuel agree that whether she acquired the land before the Erusin or whether she acquired the land after the Kiddushin, Kiddushin, Erusin is the same thing, and then got married and sold the land after marriage, the husband can go after the purchasers. The sale is invalid. In other words, according to Rav and Shemuel, they would disagree with this entire structure. It doesn't matter when she inherits the land. All that matters is when she sells the land. No matter when she inherited the land, before, when she's single, in between, afterwards, if at the time after they're married, she goes and sells it. No, we're married. He has full authority over her property at that time. Although when they get divorced, he'll return the property. Yes, true. But while they're married, he has full rights over it. He has rights over the income, and he has rights over the sale, even if she earned it, even if she inherited it long before. Okay, now we ask about the Rav and Shemuel. Keman, the lo Rabbi Yehuda, the lo Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya. This Rav and Shemuel doesn't go like any of the opinions above, but both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Chanina, although they disagree on the details, they both agree that there is a distinction about when she acquired it. And so, if she acquired it long before, then everyone agrees that the sale should be valid, even if she sells it after. So what's going on? Inhu damre Rabbotenu. Rav and Shemuel follow the opinion of Rabbotenu, who we didn't quote yet, but are found in the following. Baraita, Datanya, Rabbotenu chazru v'nimnu. The rabbis, these rabbis, returned to the subject and they voted and decided ben shenaflula ad shelo titares ben shenaflula mishe nitaresa v'niset habal mosi miyad halakochot. They voted and decided whether she acquired the land before Kiddushin or after Kiddushin. Once she gets married, the husband has full rights and her sale is invalid. All right, good. We next move on to the third case of the Mishnah that says Misha Niset Elu Ve'elu Modim. If she acquires the land after the Nisu'in, then everyone agrees, Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai agree that the husband has full rights and her sale would be invalid. So we ask about this. Lema tanena letakanat usha. We already know that this law is true based on an ordinance that the rabbis in Usha made. So does this mean that this Mishnah already taught something that would only come later, that we learned in Usha? And didn't this kind of overlap something that was an ordinance? So is this an old law that then they again, what's the relationship between this Mishnah and the ordinance of Usha that said the same thing? אמר רבי יוסף ברבי חנינא, באושה התקינו, האישה שמכרה בנכסי מלוג בחיי בעלה, ומתה, הבעל מוציא מיד הלקוחות. Because here's the tradition in Usha, they made an enactment that if a woman sells her milog property, that's property that she retains the title to, and she will get back at the end of the marriage. So if she sells it during the lifetime of her husband, so while they're married, but then she dies first while he's alive, he can go and take the land back from the buyers. Sale is invalid. So this seems to overlap the Mishnah. So why do we need these two sources to say the same thing? Right? Does the Mishnah already say what they decided in Usha later? The answer is no, actually two different things. Matnitin bechayeha ul perot. Takanat Usha begufa shel karka ul'achar mita. The Mishnah was talking about during her lifetime. If she decides during the marriage, when they're both alive, that she's going to take this land that he is farming and keeping the income, she sells it to someone else. So then he, during her lifetime, could go back and say, sorry, this is I'm using this land here. She had no right to sell it to you. And so he can take it back. That's all the Mishnah said. But the Mishnah did not say anything about her selling it to say that after she dies, then it will go. She can sell it while she's alive, so that as soon as she dies, then it will go to someone else, and she can collect the money and enjoy it while she's alive, or it'll go to in her inheritance. That was the Mishnah law. At Usha, they said that the land itself, even after the death, the husband can go repossess it. If she had sold the land while she was alive, then the husband can go back and repossess not just the income, but the land itself. So in the Mishnah, we're just talking about where she sells the land with the income during while they're married. So the Mishnah is saying no, he can get it back. It's his. But according to the Mishnah, once she dies, it could be then that sale would go through, and the husband would no longer take it. So Usha, they said, no, we don't even want that to happen. And so they added this extra layer that he can repossess the land itself that she tried to sell when she was alive. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Cholek ben Nechasav. Now the very last part of the Mishnah, where Rabbi Shimon makes a different distinction altogether between property he knows about and that he can repossess, and property he doesn't know about. There, she can sell the land. Eluhen hayeduin ve'eluhen she'enan yeduin. What does this mean that he knows about or doesn't know about? Two definitions. Amar Rabbi Yosef b'Rabbi Chanina. Yeduin mekarkeleh, she'enan yeduin metaltelin. So Rabbi Yosef b'Rabbi Chanina explains things that he knows about. That's talking about land. You can't hide land. It's right there. He's going to go and see it. He's going to know about it. Whereas if they are movable property, maybe she has jewelry or other things that she can store away, that she retains full ownership over, and therefore she can sell it, and those sales would be valid. That's definition number one. Second definition, now all that land or movable objects that she has around are things that he will know about. What does it mean that he doesn't know about it? If they live in one place and she acquired land in another country that is not around, they're not traveling much, the mail system was slow, and so it could be that he'll never know that she has some overseas accounts, and so that property she can buy and sell and do whatever she wants with it. Tanyana mehachi, we have a braita that supports Rabbi Yochanan. Elu hen she'enan yedoin kol sheyoshevet kan v'naflu nachasim b'minat hayam. Exactly the same. And as long as they live in one place and she acquires some property in another place, so that land she can sell, and because he's not attached to it, he's not relying on it. He's not saying, I acquired you and your land. When he married her, he only knew about this land, so as nothing, it's outside the bounds of his reach. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.